Hey everybody, this is Braeden Arbour from MMA Island, and I'm sitting down today with Mohammed Shahid, the president of Brave Combat Federation, as well as a former fighter himself. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on 5 years of Brave. That's obviously very tremendous, and in a very short amount of time, the promotion has grown so much. What do you attribute to such that quick growth to?
It's definitely the vision of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa. I mean, he's been always the pillar behind the development of mixed martial arts. So for us, I always say that the journey has been easy as a president of Brave Combat Federation because the vision was very simple, clear to understand, and that was not to create a brand or a business that can become $1 billion business or compete with other promotions. So that's the headache, you know. But for us, it was nothing to do with that. It was not competing in the market. It was simply about how to bring change to mixed martial art. You know, you look at mixed martial art. You're in the media world. You hear every single day someone whining, crying, complaining, or it's genuine problems out there as well. You know, so what do you do about this? We love to put it out on the media and say, you know what, we got an interesting story, but who's going to fix these problems, you know? So for us, it was very simple. His Highness Sheikh Khalid wanted to change mixed martial art, make sure that mixed martial art is in the sports business and not the event business. And how do we do that? We can't do it with a group of people who love mixed martial art alone. We need experts in the sports industry. We need experts who have been creating policies for years for sports. We need experts who can reach to the right network of government. And we need experts that can actually bring the funding that's required to create a sports. And that's not in billions, it might be in trillions too. So all this has to combine together to be able to develop a sport. And if you want to do that, you need to have a brand that is taking that responsibility on their shoulders. So Brave Combat Federation was founded 5 years back to take that responsibility on their shoulder. And that's why everything you see us do is nothing related to market capitalization in a country. If we want to make market capitalization, we would have stuck in Middle East for 54 events for 5 years and taken over that market easily. But why did we have to globalize? When you globalize, you're a little bit of everywhere, but not completely topped in one place, you know. So you're spread over, but we didn't care about that because we want to spread the word, we want to spread the networking and everything else, equip ourselves to take that change or make that change really happen. So 5 years, if you look at us now, you'll understand better what we were when you see us do crazy things, go to Pakistan, go to African continent, you know, and when the economy of Brazil is down and there's no sponsors in Brazil, we are going there and making events. So a lot of people thought we didn't know what business was. We didn't know MMA business, but we weren't doing business at all. We were actually developing the sport of mixed martial art. Why did we bring the International Mixed Martial Art Federation to Bahrain? So I could go on speaking about this. Sorry, it's just your first question, but in the end of the day, 5 years, we have been building an infrastructure that is equipped to fight another 5 years that's going to implement change to mixed martial art. As simple as that.
For sure. So you just spoke a lot about, you know, there are like these problems and headaches that a lot of other promotions aren't necessarily facing head on that you guys absolutely do. And especially across 5 years, you know, you guys have done so much. So is there a moment, a specific goal that you guys, like a problem that you answered that really sticks out to you over the past 5 years that you've kind of been running this?
Number one, globalization. One of the biggest issues have been, I mean, again, we were equipping ourselves to being able to implement that change. But again, if you look at just 5 years, we have become a brand that people can understand and relate to, because mixed martial art world, you understand promotions, you understand fight nights, you understand this kind of system. So we have done things in the way mixed martial art fans really understand what it is. So we have been actually trying to become a voice that can actually advocate for change. But if you look at 5 years, we have globalized the sport of mixed martial art, development of amateur circuit. That's the key point. If you look at a team today, let's say any team in the world, the best mixed martial art teams in the world, you go to that gym to train and you'll see them trying to push fighters quickly to a pro level, because in the end of the day, that's the benefit a gym gets, is when an athlete who's at the top level can turn pro, and with that, you get a percentage from the fights, you know. And then managers on the same hand looking for that, you know, and fighters also want to go pro because they want to make a living. So you don't really see a grassroots development program. And if anybody's trying to do that, nobody pays attention to it. So just because there's no money in it, maybe, or it's not really that important until it goes to Olympics. But we have been developing that. And if you look at the International Mixed Martial Art World Championships that we was held in Bahrain for 2017 to 19 in Combat Week, Brave Combat Week, you'll see that there is no combat world championship, whether it be wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu. You can never compare any world championship of combat sports to that kind of extravaganza, like a festival in Bahrain. We just try to empower the World Championship of MMA, let people know that 60 plus countries have been could come to Bahrain and compete in the World Championship. So development of amateur level was very important. Empowering the national federations and international federation was very important. But mostly it is about going to different countries and empowering the ecosystem of MMA in that countries. So every country we go to, you see us doing a lot of co-promotion. And the reason why we do co-promotion in the country is when you go to a country, you see the national federation, you see the fighters, you see the promoters who are working really hard to keep their fighters active, keep MMA active in those countries. We go, we bring them all together and we give them a global exposure, get them more opportunity to get sponsorships, get the government involved, the private sectors involved. They couldn't have got before. And we do all of that without asking for any fee of hosting fee, this right, that's right. You know, we don't care about that. You know, we let them, we go, we work with them, we give them all the values that we can give, and we make sure that your hard work that you have been doing in the country is not wasted. We are coming to globalize you and help you get that global exposure. And together as a family is the only way we can bring change. The top promotions really don't want to unite because they're all worried about their brand and their brand valuation, but we want to really bring them together. That's what you'll see us doing in every country that we go to. And we've 5 years, if you look back, you'd see the World Championship become at a different level from UFC Fight Week to Brave International Combat Week. You look at the difference between the World Championship, it's massive. You look at the growth of International Mixed Martial Art Federation, it's massive. If you look at the amount of fighters who became superstars, whether it's in UFC or any other promotion or in Brave, from other countries where you don't really would have seen athletes grow in, and that's what Brave has been doing, you know, giving opportunities to fighters, allowing the promotions in those countries and federations to be part of a global structure. Again, it was just when you look back, you see that, but that's not our real goal. Our real goal is to, again, bring the whole sport under one umbrella.
For sure, absolutely. And I think on top of what you just said, like Brave does a very in terms of the globalization, you guys do a very, very good job of like giving those fighters the platform to like represent their country. And I think that's like a very important part that they get to experience as well. As we go into the next 5 years, obviously, are there any specific countries or you know, other areas of the globe that you personally are looking forward to breaking out into and like working with like you said, like co-promoting and, you know, building your own hosting events in different countries? Is there a specific place you're looking forward to?
So each continent, you get the idea of some countries when we look at the continents. So if you look at Africa, I want to keep pushing more on the North African region as well. We've done Morocco already, but I still want to go to other North African countries because I see a lot of top athletes in Europe coming from this part of the world. But when you look at Middle East, for example, we really want to push ourselves more into the markets that are really developing MMA and working hard to develop MMA in those countries. So Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, go back to Saudi Arabia, keep it moving. Of course, we haven't done an event in Dubai, and that's shocking to say that when in the Middle East, you don't do an event in Dubai, you have to go and do an event in Dubai. So that's a personal goal to do an event in Dubai. But when you look at the other part of the world, we want to push more into UK, USA, and Canada, of course. We know we have fighters there. We have the top guys that we're trying to scout from these regions. And 2022, our goals are to get more Canadian, US fighters, UK fighters. We are there, whether it's all kinds of UK fighters we've been trying to sign in now. But the mission for US and Canada is definitely going to be in 2022, push more into those territories and work towards making an event there. And Southeast Asia, again, you know, that's a big market for us. We've already done events in Philippines, we've done in Indonesia, but I still want to go more into that region and do an event in Japan, Korea. It's one of the two areas that I really want to look into, and get back into India and Pakistan as well. You know, those guys have made so many fighters big. Those Indian fans have made WWE still survive. They have made fighters super famous because of the numbers that are following them. So they have a huge fan base, and they really, really want to create their talents. And we have guys like Mohammed Farhad from from India who's been doing really well in Brave. And I think it's important that we need to go back there and establish a stronger relationship with this country. So if you look at continents, I mean, it's a lot of countries, a lot of ideas. Europe, like I said, we already announced Germany, by the way, but that was something that was on the pipeline that we had to enter Germany. We have to do France. There's no question about it. I can't wait to go to Ireland and do an event. So there's just a lot of things in the pipeline. We're just excited and want to do everything at the same time, but it's not going to happen. We're going to take it step by step.
For sure, absolutely. If I could circle back just a little bit, when you're talking about like the actual, the archetype of what the MMA promotion has like kind of become, and you guys are obviously, creating a lot of different changes and stuff that haven't been seen before. One of the things that was recently announced was the Brave National Fight League, and I've seen a lot of comparisons to like sort of like the FIFA model, which has kind of been like the big comparison that I've seen in different places. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to what you personally expect that to sort of end up looking like?
I got a really nice statement from John Kavanagh when I was speaking to him about the league model as well, and he used a really good word that really impressed me, and I wanted to use that word. I didn't want to give credit to him. I wanted to steal those words for myself, but I have to give credit for what he said. He said that it is an inevitable evolution of mixed martial art. That's Brave National League. It is, you can't avoid it. It is going to be the evolution of the sport. We have learned combat sports have always been individual versus an individual. And why do you think it is? We all call it as an individual sport because that's all we know. We haven't tried to make it into a team sport. We haven't tried to make it into bringing national pride to it, team pride to it. We haven't done that because we learned combat sports. You look at wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or maybe sambo, a lot of other combat sports that's out there, they don't have a professional circuit. You have a professional circuit in boxing. So that's where we learned a little bit about how to make combat sports professional. Of course, we took the WWE model and we made that slight change, making the brand and everything under one roof. But that's all we know. The sport is young. It's not a 100, 200-year-old sport. It's a young sport. So we don't have the knowledge about what it can be and what it should be. So we are taking the fastest fan base growth in the world in mixed martial art. We are taking that sport and we are bringing the most successful business model the world has ever seen is the franchise model, is the league model, and we are bringing them together to create the most lucrative sports investment opportunity the world will ever see. And that's what we're trying to bring in. But the difference why I say that this is not a new model. This model has been done before. There has been local promotions that has done this model before. It's nothing new. A lot of people I've seen recently, one of the media person was talking about another promotion that's doing a league model. And everybody came in thinking that, wow, this is new. This is not new. It has been done before. But no, they just don't have the attention of what's happening in the MMA world. Although they call themselves MMA media, they really don't know what's going on in this world. They have to do the research to understand that league model is only going to be successful, not because it's just a model that's different. It's only going to be successful if the whole sport is under one structure. The whole sport has to be under one umbrella. You can't go out to UK and create, let's say, a Brave League for football and say that I'm going to beat Premier League. Sure, you can create a league because if you have the money, you have the partners, you can create a league. But the problem is, will you ever have the valuation of your clubs growing? Will you ever have the valuation of your players growing? It won't happen. Why? Because you are not competing in the FA Cup. You are not competing in the Champions League. You are not competing in any of these competitions where the global leagues are united under one umbrella, and that confederation is under a bigger umbrella, and the whole sport is under one umbrella where you can't change that. You can always create leagues, but you're never going to win that. And the whole world is together. So you could have a Lionel Messi in football, but you can't have a Lionel Messi in mixed martial art. If you don't know how he speaks, if he doesn't speak English, you can't have him because he's not marketable. He doesn't speak the language that the fans want to hear. So unfortunately, that's the problem in mixed martial art today. And we are not here to whine or complain about the problem. We're here to bring the solution for the problem. And Brave National League is that final puzzle. By the way, I will never say that that's the solution. It is a final puzzle of what we have been doing for 5 years. Like I was telling in the beginning, the first 5 years was equipping ourselves of creating an infrastructure that can go to war and that can make that change in mixed martial art. We haven't seen a change in sports that drastic in the past 100 years or more. We haven't seen that big of a change in any sport. So we don't really know if a sport can change that drastically one, you know, a 360-degree change. And it can happen. It has happened to F1. It has happened to football. It has happened to every sport that you can think of. Every organization you can think of has had that change. But it's not for us to see it. Maybe our children or our grandchildren will be really enjoying this model, or we are the ones that's going to be building that legacy and putting the seed to it, because we don't see anybody else taking that responsibility for mixed martial art. We're all enjoying fights. We're all enjoying making stars, but not even the biggest promotions, the media platforms, the organizations, none of them are actually taking the responsibility of changing mixed martial art. We're all enjoying mixed martial art. But if we don't involved in creating that change, we will end up like boxing going to die in the future, you know, in 10, 15 years of today. Today, if a YouTuber can come and box with a fighter and make more money than the guy who was Olympic champion, then that's going to come to MMA. Don't think that it's only going to happen in boxing. You know, they're going to be slowly moving into MMA at one point because we are in the event business. I've always said that you could have two of the best fighters fight against each other, or you could have Shakira and Beyonce fight each other. You're still in the event business. You're going to sell tickets. You're going to sell that fan base. You're going to sell pay-per-views. You know, it's not about fights anymore. It's about events. You are in the event business. Don't complain about it. You want to complain about it, you need to change the model. If fighters are complaining that they're not getting paid like NFL athletes, remember, you're not in NFL. Simple as that. The model is even business model. If you have a business model in your sport like NFL, then you can ask for it and you can complain about it, but you don't have that structure. We want to create that structure. And why we say FIFA? Because people who are trying to make league model and create a league are going to die because there's no regulation. As long as our sports doesn't have regulation, don't have policies, there always can be disasters on the way.
I'm not sure what cut off there. Sorry, so you're just talking about how it's not enough just to have like this regular league model, but to actually go against the FIFA model is so much more different.
It has, the whole sport has to be under one umbrella, you know, that's the key point. You need to have regulations, you need to have everything supervised, and Brave cannot do it alone. We just started the league model because we're building the infrastructure. It cannot be happen only because a promotion has money or they're bringing the right partners. It's a complete solution for mixed martial art. The FIFA model is regulation, is private sectors involved, it's government involved, national federations involved. The whole sport's under one structure. That's what we are bringing with Brave National League. Although we are bringing the league model, but we are not doing it by ourselves, just bringing some fighters union guys or a group of commission and thinking we can run the sport. No, that's business model, you know, but we are looking at completely putting the whole mixed martial art under one umbrella, like how football is under FIFA umbrella. And that's the similarities that we're looking at. So we are partnering with everybody that can be a part of this. Maybe tomorrow you see the top promotions in the world today, they could be their own leagues in their country, but everything comes under one umbrella. You can't have a league by yourself and think you're going to be under this big system. It is a huge dream. It is a big step that we're really talking about. It's not about a brand or a company. It's about a sport, and sport is so much more bigger than one person, one country, or one company. You know, it is much bigger. And if it is not that much bigger, then the sport is, you are actually doing something dishonest for the sport, you know. And today people say, oh, we have a $7 billion company in our sport. We're like, would you rather have $7 billion company, one $7 billion company, or would you rather have $23 billion company? Which do you think you would prefer, you know? And I would take any day to have $23 billion companies in my sport, because that shows that it's not monopoly. That shows that there's opportunity for everybody to come on board, and there's an opportunity for the sport to grow. And I can see that growth. If it is 20 today, there could be 100 tomorrow, you know. And that's where I would like to see our sports, and that's what we're working on. And Brave National League is a final piece of the puzzle. So we're looking at the next 5 years to use all our international relationship, all our events that we have done around the world, partnering with National Federation, partnering with our co-promotions, bring them all together, one huge army fighting for one cause. The vision of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, change the sport of mixed martial art from an event business to a sports business. And we can't do it alone. We need this whole team to come together and make it happen.
I see. So I'm curious, because, you know, you've talked a lot about evolving the sport, and it's obviously this long-term goal, and to make sure that the sport becomes more like the long-term goal, like you said, it doesn't end up like boxing where it ends up kind of like flourishing or falling down later on, like years later, and obviously making things taking risks and like fixing problems. I'm curious now, as a former fighter yourself, how you came up at a time where in Bahrain where you didn't have a lot of the platforms to like you know, get all the training that everybody else in the world necessarily had, right? So I'm curious, as a former fighter, how you think it would have changed had you had like this league model and this feeder amateur system, and like what that's going to do on the level of the actual fighters as opposed to like the sport as a whole.
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, what would happen is a lot more infrastructure. I mean, when you can, it was so hard, like you said, the time when I was fighting, it was so hard to convince anyone to enter mixed martial art business. Even today, it hasn't changed much in terms of what the perspective of sports investment when it comes to MMA is. We still know that it doesn't make money. 7,000 promotions in the world, 6,999 are failed models. So there is somebody who has to stand up and say, can't you see it? That this is a failed model. Somebody has to speak about it. Why is everybody quiet? So at that time, if it's still this way, at that time when I was fighting, there was nobody who was willing to open an MMA gym. They would rather open a fitness gym where we could have women and kids who really pay to be there in the gyms, and we can really make good money out of them. But when it comes to MMA gyms, what am I going to do? That's not going to make money. If I have the money, I'll make an actual fitness gym. So this was the mentality. So really, if we had the league model at that time, there's few things that could actually change. One was to make sure that my training would have happened, because every team, there would be a lot more athletes, a lot more gyms out there. That's one important thing. The infrastructure for the sport will have developed. But even more important than that is I wouldn't have to deal with my parents telling me go to school, So I dropped out of high school just so that I could train and fight full time. So I had to make a choice, and I said, I'm not going to go to school anymore. I'm going to go out there and start training to fight, because all my morning and afternoon I'm in school doing things I don't want to do. Instead of that, I would be training 3 times a day, 4 times a day. I didn't know why was I training 4 or 5 times a day, but I was still doing it because I knew that that's what I want to be. So that nobody approved of it. They were not happy about it because they didn't think there was a career. And today, if there was a league model, when you see the biggest investors, biggest businessmen involved in each one has their own clubs. Today, it's like, if my kid wants to be a footballer, I'm happy because I know there's an infrastructure and he could be a star and he could make money if he has a talent. And I'm just looking if he has a talent in football or not. If he doesn't have the talent, I would not let him be there. But if he has a talent, I'm confident that he could be something because the infrastructure is there. MMA doesn't have that. If my kid wants to be an MMA fighter today, I'm thinking first thing in my head, will he be marketable? Will he be good looking guy? Will he be able to trash talk really well? I mean, completely different things that sports really should not be requiring to be at the top level. But unfortunately, that's our sport. So if you have the league model, you have the infrastructure. All the way from gym, all the way to glory. You have a pathway, but the only variable, whether you will reach glory or not, should be your talent. And that's this model all about. All the way from gym, amateur level, transition from amateur to professional, using the national federations that will create that pathway. And then the leagues creating them into national champions. And then the inter-league competitions between other nations, making him into a continental or international champion. And all the way up to representing his nation at the highest level. All of this can be done while he's getting paid regularly like other athletes. So I think one of the biggest things I would have achieved was not the training and everything else, which would have been great, but the confidence of my family and confidence of the people around me who can look at me and say, you know what, all the best, Shahid, go ahead, be a fighter. We are with you. Hope you succeed. But they wouldn't do that because they didn't know that there was a goal. And I don't think even today it has changed a lot. Even today, if somebody says that they want to be a fighter, you would think twice if you really care about them to think. If you have another option, think about it. And if you really love fighting, go do it because your happiness is most important. But I'm not going to let him do it because of fakely telling that you are going to be Floyd Mayweather or you're going to be Conor McGregor. It takes much more than just fighting in today's MMA business to be at the top level or to be able to make a living like the guys who have done.
For sure. I won't take up too much more of your time. But before we go, I do want to ask you about Brave 54 just before we leave. So huge event. In the main event, Amir potentially could become the first ever lightweight champion to defend his belt in the promotion. What do you think it would mean for the promotion and also himself to be that first champion to start sort of a reign?
100%. I mean, that everything in this fight card really is it's very special. Of course, I mean, defending the title would create a really strong lightweight division for us in the future, where while we have guys like Camille, while we have guys like Kubanic, while we have guys like Sam Patterson lined up behind him, ready to jump for that title, but it will be really amazing to have him defend the title. So we know that the story of a lightweight division starts from there. That's going to be historic. But on the other hand, you're looking at Ahmed Amir, who's fighting him, and that's another historic situation where we've never seen an Egyptian fighter actually fight internationally and reach to a main event and go for most probably try to reach to the position where he can become a champion. To do that, actually, that's where I always feel like he has that pressure. Amin is about himself, what he can achieve being a champion, defending the belt. But Ahmed Amir, his situation is a little bit different. He's carrying a whole nation on his shoulder right now. The whole Egypt is looking forward to him being a champion. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for him, how he deals with it. But this is much more bigger for Egypt than anything else they have ever done in combat sports. So this is going to be huge for them. And if Ahmed Amir wins that belt, for him, that'll be one of the biggest achievements of his life, because not that in future, if he defends the belt, nothing else is going to be as big as this, because he's going to change mindset of 200 million people. So that's something different, for him. So it is significant for both the sides. But at the same time, you look at the fight card and you're seeing the co-main event, something crazy happening there with Blaine and Mokaev. And so it's also great for the Polish fighters. I mean, these three fighters who are going to be competing on September 25th, on Saturday night, it's big for them, because for what they are doing is also opening doors to all of Poland and saying that if you're ready to go global, Brave is here now. We're not one of those promotions that is sitting in USA or sitting in another part of the world and just taking our fighters and making them compete in that country. No, we go around the world for the fighters. So we are here in Poland, which means we're going to be here for the foreseeing future, So if you guys have the talent and quality to get global and fight against the best, here we are. And the first few fighters that's going to get that opportunities are these three fighters that's going to be competing on September 25th. And for them, it is a big deal. And their opponents are not pretty easy opponents. If you look at Axel Sola there, he is arguably one of the most potential future talent France will ever see, compared to his amateur records as well. And even Evelina, who's undefeated, is actually going to be fighting Bake, who actually beat Manjeet, who's arguably the best female fighter in India. So it is a historic event in all the ways. It's historic for Poland. It's historic for Egypt. It is historic for Brave as the lightweight champion defending his title if Amin wins. It's great for Amin Ayoub's career, because that kid deserves everything for the sacrifice he has made to become where he is today. And then you have Mokaev and Blaine, where I don't know. I just can't comment on that, because I don't know what's going to happen. This is, I cannot lie. Mokaev is one of the biggest draws of Brave Combat Federation. It is what it is. He is 29-0. He has UK behind him. He has Dagestan behind him. He has Russia behind him. He has Middle East behind him. He has the whole IMMAF family behind him. He has so much things behind him, so much hopes behind him. And he's a kid who has lived up to it. He has talk the talk, but walk the walk as well. And then you have Blaine, who really looks like a party spoiler, and he's right there, confident, happy to be there. And it scared me when I heard John Kavanagh say that when we got the call from Brave and told us about this fight, that Blaine is going to fight Mokaev, he said that he called Blaine and he told him, we got it. And he didn't say what. He just said, we got it. And Blaine was like, good. They were waiting for this. They knew this was coming. They were preparing for this. It was not a one camp. He said this is a two camp that he was been preparing. They knew this was coming. They were waiting for this opportunity. And that was a little scary to hear that, because it's not a fight that just happened. They knew this was coming. They were waiting for it. And I think Blaine is more prepared for Mokaev even before the fight ever happened. So that's going to be crazy. But it is a big fight for UK Ireland. It's a big fight for Dagestan Ireland. It's a big fight for SBG and KHK. There is history behind it. The last fight, if you look at it, again, it was KHK versus SBG when Blaine fought Shorty Torres. The cornermen were the same. It was John Kavanagh and Eldar. And tomorrow, on Saturday, it's going to be the same thing. Tomorrow night, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, it's going to be Eldar and Kavanagh. It's going to be KHK and SBG. It's going to be Ireland and Dagestan. But it's also going to be Ireland and UK as well. A lot of stories in that fight.
Yeah, and I know I'm taking so much of your time. I will. So very last question. As you kind of alluded to, that co-main event is just absolutely explosive. The main event's great. It's hard to imagine a better co-main event, but at the same time, it is at a catch weight at 59 kilos. So what do you think the stakes are in this fight? What do you see potentially for the winner?
We have a flyweight tournament still pending to finish. We have Ali Bagatino and Shorty Torres at the semifinals. We have Veli Murad already at the finals. You have Zach Makowski and Dustin Ortiz waiting for their fight to come up because they want to look at who's going to be winning this fight, because they want to jump on that guy immediately, because they know the winner of this fight is going to be right up there waiting for that flyweight tournament champion to be crowned. Because once the flyweight champion is crowned, all of these guys are going to jump back in, trying to get that, steal that crown from the champion. So I think, but for Makhaev, it's new. For Makhaev, if he beats Blaine, he's jumping in that mix, and he hasn't had the experience in the tournament because he hasn't fought in that tournament. Blaine has already fought in that tournament. Of course, it was a short notice, and that's the credit he gets. That what happens if he had a full camp against Shorty Torres? Now, what's going to happen between Shorty Torres and Ali Bagatinov? We have to wait and see. And Veli Murad is eagerly waiting for watching who's going to win that fight. So I think the winner of this fight is going to be in that mix. He's got Zach Makowski, Dustin Ortiz already waiting for him. But at the same time, all three of these guys are going to be waiting for the champion to be crowned, because then you're talking about the champion. Well, let's say we have Veli Murad, Ali Bagatinov, Shorty Torres, Dustin Ortiz, Zach Makowski, Abdul Hussein is going to jump back in. We have the two guys here, which is Makhaev and Blaine. So that flyweight division is going to be, you put anybody against anyone, and it's still going to be fun, So that'll be the easiest matchmaking responsibility to do, just match them against each other. And that's why we want to do a tournament. So I think the winner here is really going to jump and go into that championship role where whoever become the champion, this guy is going to be getting that opportunity to jump in and knock that door. But the winner here is actually having guys waiting for them. I think Zach Makowski and Dustin is actually waiting for the winner here.
All right, perfect. Thank you for your time. Once again, congratulations on the 5-year anniversary of the promotion. It's been really great meeting you and great talking to you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to having much more of these conversations.